and welcome to my theory video. This is a theory that I wanted to make a video of for quite some time now, and I couldn't find a way or find a perfect time to do so until I realized, well, someone's birthday is coming up. So I decided to post this video on this person's birthday because it's a theory that revolves around her. And if you haven't guessed based off my shirt, I'm talking about Nami. It's Nami's birthday today, or at least when this video was posted, and I wanted to talk to you about a theory I had of one possible role that Nami could play in the final war, whether against Emu, Blackbeard, or whoever you think the final villain of One Piece is going to be. I think it's a theory that will play not only strongly to one part of Nami's skill set, but also turn the tide of the war. A grand war, a very big war, and this role of hers will essentially turn the tides of it. This is a theory on Nami committing the greatest heist in the history of One Piece. So before I get into the theory, let's go back and look at what skill set I am referring to. Since this is a video about a grand heist, we are going to be talking about Nami's thievery skills, her stuff. Because as we all know, when we first meet her in Orange Town, we know that she is a thief. She's going around stealing from pirates, despite the fact that the live action series tries very hard to make it seem like she steals from almost anybody. No, she steals from pirates. And she does this because she's trying to buy back her village from a ruthless pirate named Arlong, right? We meet her in Orange Town, Luffy falls from the sky, she uses him to get rid of the buggy pirates and tries to partner up with Luffy, only to find out that he was a pirate and she just wanted no business with him. So eventually she tries to trick him again and then essentially aligns with him, and they go on this small adventure before she, decides that enough is enough and she had to go because she was very close to 100,000 berries she needed to save her village. And when we reach the Arlong Park arc, we find out why Nami is a thief, why she's doing all of this. Because she wanted to buy back her village, save her family. She is a thief with a kind heart. And she is doing all of this to get back, to get revenge, to buy back her village from a ruthless pirate named Arlong. Yet Arlong betrays her. He betrays her. And now that, she has no one left in the corner, she just couldn't handle the fact that her family decided enough is enough and go charge against Arlong to stop him, even though they knew they would die. Nami, frustrated, starts stabbing at her tattoo of the Arlong pirates that she was forced to get, and she stabs and stabs until Luffy stops her. Then, she desperately asks for help. For the first time in her life, she doesn't want to literally do everything herself. She asks for help because she needs help. She lost all hope, and Luffy was there to help her along with Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp. Luffy defeats Arlong, and now she is set free. Free to go out and adventure with Luffy and everyone else and go on this pirate journey to make him the Pirate King. But she doesn't at all go back on her thievery skills. She doesn't stop being a thief because now she's able to steal money from pirates and find gold and treasure for herself, as well as use the money, among the Straw Hat crew, despite the fact they did just lose all that money instantly because of parties or because of Luffy's, ever-ending, appetite. But she does it for the crew. She does it for herself because now she doesn't have to do it for Arlong or whatever, right? And as the series goes on, we see that her skill set from time to time is shown, how she's able to steal certain things when it is important, such as in Fishman Island when she grabs the letter of Shirahoshi's mom to give back to Jinbei and Shirahoshi, as well as using her stealth skills in Wano to learn about the ammunition camp where, to collect intel. We see her skill set constantly evolve as the series goes on. And this is going to be important, especially when you really think of how grand this heist is going to be. And now that we have gotten through a small, summary of her skill set and just who Nami is, let's go on into what this grand heist is going to be about and what is she going to steal. So let's paint a picture. We're at the final war. Things are hectic. Things are going crazy. Luffy, the Straw Hats, Even the Alliance is there fighting against Emu. Maybe even some of the Marines join their side, and they're fighting against Emu, Blackbeard, or whoever is going to be that monster that is depicted in the mural. They're fighting him, and it's just everything is just continuous battle, continuous fighting. Looks like there's no hope in victory because Emu is just too strong. It's just impossible. What we do know that will also occur during this final war is that all three ancient weapons are going to be there. Now, what the ancient weapons are going to be used for, that is debatable. Whether it's going to be used against Emu, or even the three ancient weapons are going to be used to destroy the Red Line, a very popular theory, right? We do know that Pluton is located in Wano. At some point, Wano's doors are going to be open and Pluton is going to emerge. We know that Shirahoshi is Poseidon, who will probably join the fight and summon the Sea Kings, to join in on the fight or do something. So all we're left is one last ancient weapon, Uranus. We don't know much about that ancient weapon at all. We don't even know what it looks like. We don't even know where it is. But we may have gotten a hint based off what happened a couple of years ago when Emu decided to destroy a country, an island known as Lulusha. Now, this is not confirmed that this is Uranus at all. But it's safe to say, since ancient weapons are able to destroy islands in an instant, it perfectly fits an ancient weapon, right? We still don't know exactly what it is, but it fits the description. Now that Emu has an impartial form of the Mother Flame, he or she can now use the weapon at any moment's notice whenever they feel like it. Maybe there is a charging, limit, or time limit where they have to wait after a certain, time frame for them to use it again. Who knows? But during the final war, each side is either going to have one or two of the ancient weapons, depending on how the final war takes place, right? More than likely, Luffy is going to have two ancient weapons on his side, Pluton and Poseidon, right? While Emu, or whoever the final villain is probably going to have Uranus on their side, assuming it is that sky beam weapon. So, how would the war change? How would they turn about the war to favor Luffy and the other side? Well, this is where Nami's skill set of a thief are going to play in. Because let's face it, Luffy is more than likely going to need all three weapons to do something in the final war that will lead them to victory. Whether the weapon is used against Emu or it's used as part of the plan to destroy the Red Line, right? They're going to have to somehow obtain Uranus. But how can they do that if Emu is in control? And you have to think about who else is going to be there to protect it. The Gorosei, the Holy Knights, right? So it's not going to be something that they will, essentially be able to fight through to be able to obtain it, unless, they're strong enough to do so. But what if there's another option, right? What if the option is to steal Uranus? And who best to steal Uranus than, the character that has a thievery background? And how would she be able to do this? How would she be able to steal Uranus, right? How would she be able to commit the greatest heist in the history of One Piece? Well, I think the best way to view this and the best way to showcase to you how she's able to do this is by a certain movie known as Strong World. We know that Oda has written Strong World and essentially wrote everything about it, including how Nami is able to go into Shiki's territory and essentially work as some sort of vanguard, right? The first attack before the main force comes in. That is essentially a plotline that Oda could now use with Emu. Emu, I don't know how they will be able to, essentially join Nami or have Nami join on their side. I don't know how. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, it could be that Emu possesses her, with Emu's abilities that we still don't know much about. Could be that Emu gives Nami some sort of ultimatum that she has to join. Or, Emu needs a vessel and Emu chooses Nami for some reason. Or something else could occur, right? What if Nami does essentially join? But she essentially joins not as an actual, member of the world government or, really gives a damn about Emu at all, right? What if this is how Nami is able to steal Emu? Because more than likely, Imu will likely be located at the top where Uranus is, where it's going to be very difficult to get to Imu. And at this point, Nami is also with Imu, right? Nami is able to escape or is able to fend off Imu, or Luffy shows up and is able to, like, distract Imu so that Nami is able to be free and then be able to commit the greatest heist in One Piece history. She is able to then take control of Uranus. How is she able to do that? Well, there's many different ways. We don't know exactly how Uranus operates. The only thing we do know is that it needs Mother Flame to actually activate and be used. But we do also know that the Mother Flame is incomplete. We are still missing that key ingredient. And if you've noticed recently in Egghead and in Elbaf, there's been talks about how, like, certain elements have caused either destruction or, used to power up an entire civilization, right? Now, of course, Vegapunk mentioned something about fire, right? And, it's probably safe to assume that he's not talking about just regular fire, right? He's probably talking about the Mother Flame. But what if that is somewhat connected into how Mother Flame is created? Because after all, you need fire in order to create the Mother Flame. It's literally an actual flame. But there's certain pieces missing to actually complete it or to actually make Mother Flame into what it is. Maybe it's lightning. Maybe it's just an understanding of elements, right? Nami is going to learn more about navigation, know more about the elements. She literally lived in Witheria, which has connection to Vegapunk. All of this could be legit knowledge that could help her take control of Uranus in a very similar way, right? I don't know exactly how this can occur. Only Oda knows if he decides to do anything with showcasing how the Mother Flame is actually or was actually created. But let's just say, for the sake of argument, that's all about just mixing certain elements or mixing certain things like fire, lightning, water, whatever, wind, and combining it into that energy source. Because after all, Mother Flame is an energy source. We know about, solar energy. We know about wind energy. All of these are just energies based off of certain elements. She is able to use her knowledge of elements that she learned from, like, Witheria and stuff like that. She could use all of that to essentially find out how to operate Uranus without the Mother Flame, which will be a huge thing because that would shock Imu. Like, if Nami steals Uranus, Imu wouldn't care because Nami would not have the power or the energy source to actually use Uranus, right? Because Imu at that point will have the Mother Flame. It's depicted in the mural that, Imu or whoever this monster is holds the Mother Flame in their hand. So it wouldn't make sense that, he would believe that Nami had found a way to use it. But that's part of the shock value. That's how she's able to commit the greatest heist. Because she finds out how to operate Uranus, right? And by doing all of that, she's able to turn the tide of the war by bringing the last ancient weapon over to Luffy's side. And then she's able to use it against Imu. The way I pictured it, at least in my head, you could call it fan fiction or whatever, is that as Luffy is going to go and descend down to deliver, like, a massive punch, because let's face it, more than likely it's going to be some sort of massive punch similar to like how, Luffy defeated the Kaido. But instead of just it being a punch, one of the sky beams, one of the laser beams that comes from Uranus descends down alongside with Luffy. And through that same force of the weapon, Luffy's fist, Luffy's powers as the sun god, they're able to strike down Imu and defeat Imu. Maybe that's not how it goes. That's just something I thought of in my head that is a possibility. Oda's going to do something, and I'll be fine with it because I think whatever Oda decides to do will be fun, will be exciting. I'll be, excited to see the ending of One Piece, or the ending of this fight, in the final war. But Nami is going to commit the greatest heist against Imu and take away the last ancient weapon from Imu's side and bring it over to Luffy's side. And that's how she's going to essentially turn the tide of the war, because of her stealing Uranus away from the enemy, bringing together all three ancient weapons and using them, to defeat Imu or the final villain. And that's how Nami is going to commit the greatest heist. Strong World, I think, is a very important movie in the context of how Oda thinks about how he wants to handle certain things. Remember, Strong World was initially going to be a Nami origin story. It was going to involve Nami and her origin, but Oda said And at least from my understanding, the producers thought that it was very emotional, and he didn't necessarily want that for a movie, so he changed it because he wanted, the audience to have fun at the movies. But there is an idea, there is a plan for Nami's origin in some form of capacity about who she actually is, why she's able to realize and see or sense a cyclone approaching when the best navigators, the best meteorologists are not able to do so in an area like the Grand Line where weather is unpredictable, as stated by Vivi, as stated by Cobra. Just the knowledge of weather is, or just they're able to control the weather, is that closest to a god. She's not going to control the weather. I don't think that's what's going to happen. But her knowledge of it, the science of it, is going to help her commit this grand heist. The way she's able to get close to Uranus will be similar to how Strong World is structured in some sort of way. Whether Imu possesses her, whether Imu wants to use, Nami as a vessel, whatever. That's how Nami's going to get close to Uranus and then steal it from Imu and essentially turn the tides of the war and end the reign of Imu. That is Nami's greatest heist that she'll ever commit in One Piece. It will be definitely better than how Karina stole all of Gold Tesoro. Now, granted, it's all gold and money, so that would, technically be a better, steal when you're thinking of value. But in terms of story and plotline, Nami's theft of the ancient weapon will be much bigger than that, because that will bring out the dawn of the Third World. And that's how, at least one way, Nami can play a pivotal role during the final war of One Piece. So let me know what you think. Like I said, I've been thinking about this for a while now. There is some, holes here and there that I could definitely tell, that is just not ready yet, to actually commit to this theory as something that is a strong possibility. But it's a nice theory. I think it's a theory that fits Nami's skill set and will really, play a real pivotal role in the final war in some form or way that she is able to do. I think each and every other Straw Hats have some sort of pivotal role in the final war based off their own skill set, based off their own strengths. And I think this will be one of the best ways that Nami's strengths, her skill set, her knowledge of weather, her knowledge of elements is going to play a huge factor in. So, yeah, let me know in the comments below what you think, and happy birthday to Nami. And thank you so much, and I'll see you guys next time.